like, why are we talking about gods? So, but I think they get it. So you've got the archetype, you've got the Jungian theory, which, goes right into all of that transformational journey that we go for. And how does branding come about that? What did you say? You said there's structure and organization. Where is the relationship between having the feeling of belonging and trusting a god? How can the marketing brand also, company brand also show that you can be trusted and you can be someone that can bring them to that journey? Like, where's that connection when you put it into a brand? What did you see?
Okay, and the question that you asked right now is a really good starting point for anyone who's starting, launching a brand, or wants to examine the effectiveness of their current brand and branding, which is to appreciate the fact that we need to understand what it is that our customer is looking for. And some of it is very apparent. We'll just go back to Coke because it's so easy. They're thirsty and they're looking for something to drink. Okay, well, that would appear, that's logical.
Very exciting, yeah. We get water.
So how do you get them to choose, your Coke over the 8 million other alternatives to quenching the thirst? And that's where the work, and I call it the myth and the magic of branding, come in, is to cause those positive associations to be created between your prospect, your customer, and your brand. And that, of course, is the hard work, because if it's a brand, sometimes people don't even know what it is that they're really looking for. In the case of Coke right now, it was very fortuitous that you brought it up in terms of the signage on the back of the truck. And, we recycle and we're quote unquote, I'm putting words in their mouth. We're stewards, of the earth, which goes.
That is what you're trying to show with the recycle logo, and the silhouette in it. Absolutely. Yeah. And
Coca-Cola's current marketing challenge is that a younger generation, certainly people under 20 and for a very large extent people under 30, have just run away at full speed from Coke, because Coke is perceived as bad, poisonous, bad for the environment. It's sugar. It has no nutritive values. And Coke has been the business of Coke as opposed from the brand of Coke. And it's really easy to get confused by Coca-Cola is a big, huge company with 8,000 products, as opposed to the brand Coke, which I got at the soda fountain if I grew up in 1935. So Coke has launched all kinds of non-sugary soda beverage alternatives, trying to hang on to their revenue, and they're clinging to it. So they have the challenge of maintaining the loyalty of people that I grew up with, as well as the loyalty of my future grandchildren who are being taught don't drink Coke, it's bad for you. Yeah.
Right. It's not sold you can get it in vending machines in high schools, but even because the school gets money from them, there was a big dust up about that about a decade back, that they were giving only healthy options in the cafeteria, but then the students could take their money from their part-time job and go in the hallway and get whatever they wanted. So they started replacing things in the vending machine with healthier options with that pushback. And guess what? They didn't make as much money from the vending machines, but that's another story, because people still wanted their chips. But yes, and we've all, in the business side of things, I'm sure many listeners have seen that Coca-Cola and other companies like it have been buying up for decades now healthier alternatives. Coca-Cola has plenty of water options, flavored water, vitamin water, not the brand vitamin water. I don't know if they own that, but if you go on their site, there's a lot of things that are not soda, that are not just fizzy liquid that could be sugary battery acid, but hey, it's refreshing. I like it. I'm not going to lie. I like it. Diet Coke is very close to a religion for a lot of people I know, but we don't see them in newer generations. They're not being taught that that's a good idea. the toys and the branding on toys like cookware sets, that they're already starting the loyalty. Take a walk down the Toys R Us aisle at the cookware sets. You've got, McDonald's cookware sets, and you've got toy food from, Burger King, you've got Calphalon sets, but you don't see a lot of soda fountains, So definitely the branding has dropped, and people are not buying that for their kids. They're buying them wooden vegetable toys, right? So they had to buy a lot of other things and then meet the consumer where they are. So I'm going to make another very irreverent and tenuous connection here for you to segue into your next part. And that is that when you are, Coca-Cola wants you to see that brand, see that logo and say, oh, good, I'm thirsty. I can buy something I want here, whether or not it's Coca-Cola soda, right? But something they offer, that means the beverages are sold in that convenience store that you like. And the tenuous connection is, I want to feel healthier. I want to have something that I trust to drink in my house. And I want health, I want protection, and I want good things for my family, going back to the mythology. So now you go to the temple, otherwise known as the Quickie Mart, and you find what you want. Instead of you bringing offerings, they're giving you, what you need to feel healthier, to give your children something healthier to drink on the run, etc., whether or not it's soda, right? So, we've talked about the personality, we've talked about human nature. It's really strong, right? The human nature part of that is really strong. This isn't so much about the mythology carrying over as we still want somebody to tell us how to have a happier, healthier life. And the branding just puts that right in front of you. Here you go. Here it is. This is how you get it. We're not out, hunting and gathering for our beverages. So that is, again, tenuous. You can run with that from there. Good luck. But it's saying, here you go. Here's what you wanted. This is the answer to your request. We won't say prayer.
Good
luck.
It's my belief these days that human and my as if is that human beings are in part hardwired with an operating system, and everyone's got it. And part of that operating system is I really would like to get a magical solution to my problems. And
that's the tenuous thing I wanted you to say. Yes. Go ahead. And magical solutions.
So the challenge for marketers, and I do want to make this relevant to the person who, as I have, has $8 to spend to create a business, and how do I spend that money wisely? And a lot of it really begins with defining the need very well, very effectively. And that's it's a lot of conversations. Basically there's going to be two kinds of things you can find out. Things that are factual. I want a widget that will do this, that comes in colors, that works on two platforms, and that is safe for my children to use. Okay, those are facts, And then you got to get a little bit under it in terms of, what would that look like? What does that feel like? How is that different than what somebody else is doing out there? And why is it so important to you that your children are able to use it? And why is it so important to you? And you have those conversations, you try to have those conversations in depth to get a more fuller sense of what people are looking for beyond just functionality. Because functionality is, I'll say it's easy. I know it's not easy for anyone out there who's building a product or a widget right now. Functionality is not easy. But beyond functionality becomes, well, what's going to make me choose this over the next one that might work equally well? So that's where, and it's true not just for consumer products, but it's true for B2B products too, because if you probe this from the perspective of the professional person, I must say professional, I mean B2B, somebody who's employed, who's using this as part of, running their business or keeping their job. You want to have the same kind of probing and see what's really important to me. And there are things that, you and I probably have never conceived of that they're going to come up with and say, that's what I want. And you may even discover, yeah, no, don't color it green because my competitor makes the one that's in green and that's a piece of junk. Don't go green.
Don't go green.
Absolutely. So green signifies yucky poo to people in that industry, which again is looking for the magics in terms of what is being signaled that is more intangible. Does that take you down the road a little bit in terms of?
It does. That's question? Where I was trying to lead you, and I was losing what I wanted to say, obviously, but you brought it back. So yeah, that magic bullet. And I would also just sidebar like to point out that if you're not familiar with very highbrow marketing lingo, yucky poo is in fact a technical term we use when it is a brand we don't like, or something less family friendly occasionally. So you're talking about, you actually said light bulb, but it was funny because I actually have the page marked where you talk about the light bulb. So I'm going to read just the first couple of sentences. In the early 1900s, the electric light bulb was regarded as a true miracle, able to bring nature into our homes and workplaces. And why? Because they couldn't reproduce sunlight inside. They couldn't work late, et cetera, et cetera. So that to them, they didn't understand how the light bulb worked yet. Now it's fairly common knowledge, but it was something that, it was like saying I brought a flashlight back in time to the cavemen. They would have thought it was magic. And it solved so many problems. It changed industry, talking about business to business. It changed families. It changed how people did things. It reduced fire risk because people weren't using candles and oil lanterns anymore. So that is a very good example of how something was a magic solution, but wasn't for Edison and Tesla and the people who were behind inventing it, correct? So it was something they worked on, they had to test, experiment with. But that's a pretty obvious thing, but to bring nature into their homes and workplaces was what struck out to me, because we don't think of that now. We just think, oh, it's electric, it's artificial light inside. But at that time, this was so new. That was an answer to their prayers. It was a miracle. They were able to bring sunlight inside at any time of the day or night. And that's
that's an excellent example. I'm really glad you chose that one, because I think
somebody really smart wrote that in this book.
Mazda light bulbs or whatever. But the realization that there was a time when you couldn't, the artificial illumination that was available was, basically oil lamps and candles. And if you think your experience camping, they're not really very bright. And so as soon as the sun went down, you lived in a completely different world with artificial light. Oh, suddenly daylight came in here. And what the manufacturer did was not sell the utility of it. Oh yeah, now you can sew 2 more hours later into the day. No, the miracle of outdoors, the miracle, and literally the miracle of the heavens comes into your house.
Like a switch, right? It was just a switch. They didn't have to do anything. They didn't have to light a fire. They didn't have to go get oil. They just clicked a switch. It came into their house from somewhere else.
Yeah, and
that's huge.
Unsaid there is, but they did have to cause electricity to come into their neighborhood. They had to cause the wire to come into their house. They had to go through the disruption of getting, but this is the intelligence of what they did.
Like telephones, right? I mean, that's all that magic bullet was not just here, we're just going to drop this light bulb in your hand and now you'll be fine. But yeah, to them, it seemed magical. To them, it was a solution. These other people were coming in and helping them put these utilities into their neighborhoods. And it took a long time for that to get all the way across the country at that time. So it was still pretty magical for a long time for people. And the same thing can be said now with, new innovations and, being able to just, younger generations are used to having an entire computer video camera that's really good quality, everything right in their hand. But the industrial, I should not say the industrial, the technology has, moved fast, so forward since when your dad was working in the Mad Men era from to now.